Well, namaskar, sat shri akal, adab, vanakkam, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are, my friends. Welcome to a new episode of My Stories from the Soul. And today, my journey takes us to Lucknow, the capital of Uttar Pradesh, or United Provinces as it used to be called. Why do I go there? Well, it happens to be my family's seat of power, both from my mother's side and from my father's side. I have been deeply linked to that city of Lucknow. It's art, archaeology, culture, Tehzeeb as they call it, in the Lucknowi bhasha, as well as the food. Of course, goes without saying. The food in Lucknow is outstanding and out of the world. But what about Lucknow? And why am I so deeply connected with it? Well, it so happens my mother was born there. It so happens that a large part of my mother's side of the family lived in Lucknow. In fact, when Calcutta, which is another city we'll visit as a part of my travels, stories from my soul, um, as Calcutta was evacuated when the Japanese had done a bombardment and landed a bomb during the Second World War in Ganeshganj in Calcutta, my family had moved in over from my mother's side into Lucknow, and that is the time my mother was born in the city of Lucknow. And you know, the, her being there, her having been born there, of course, connects me deeply to that city, and also from the fact that my father's side of the family decided to from Jaunpur, which is where they belong to in eastern UP near Banaras. Many of them migrated and started living in the city of Lucknow. And I used to visit the place very often. Never grew up there, never really went to school there, but spent considerable amount of time in that amazing city with a lot of amazing facts of life that enchant you, that captivate you, and kind of bring it back to it. And I'm talking about right from my early stages. My earliest memory of Lucknow happens to be from the year 1971. I think I was 3 years old, and I have vivid memories of Lucknow, and specifically the bridge that crosses the river Gomti near Lucknow University. But we'll get to that. Let's first talk about Lucknow and its genesis. Well, again, Lucknow was a part of the Sharki dynasty. As you know, we talked about the Sharki dynasty, which was set up in Jaunpur back in the year 1349, which was Firoz Shah Tughlaq's, gift to probably northern India, this city of Jaunpur, and the dynasty that ruled there was the Sharki dynasty. They, of course, had the area called Lucknow under their control. But Lucknow, prior to this period, existed from the time of Ramayana under the name of Lakhanpur, Lachmanpur. And this was because when Lord Rama, as per the mythological text, returned from Ayodhya after winning over Ravan, and Lakshman, his younger brother, who had fought the war with him or the battle with him, the battle of good versus evil, due to which we just recently celebrated the festival of Diwali, when they returned to Ayodhya as a gift for the support that Lakshman gave to Ram, he was given a territory not very far from Ayodhya, which was this area called as Lakhanpur or Lachmanpur, which is the ancient name for Lucknow. And it happens to be again on the very same bank of the river Gomti. It's about 550 kilometers southeast of the capital of India, New Delhi. And historically, it's extremely significant. As I mentioned to you, from the ancient Indian mythology and text standpoint, while this name Lakshman or Lakhanpur kind of was given over to this region, which was a part of Ram Rajya, Lucknow was a suburb at that time of Ayodhya. Ayodhya, of course, in subsequent medieval ages or the Middle Ages of India, got renamed as Faizabad, or the area got renamed as Faizabad. The town of Ayodhya is very significant, more so today, when you've had recently the Ram Lala temple, and of course there have been the conversations that have happened associated with Babri Masjid and what have you. We are not getting into the political side of it here. We're talking about my journey and my closeness to that area. So historically, all of these areas are centered around the river Gomti or the river Saryu, and these were part of the ancient Ram Rajya, where Lord Ram used to rule a territory from Ayodhya. and his younger brother was given the territory of Lachmanpur, Lakhanpur, and which is now known as Lucknow. Let's fast forward now. Lucknow was, captured by Babur in the year 1528. The same Babur who led to the formation of the Mughal dynasty, whose son, uh, in fact, was Humayun. Again, he's connected to my city where I was born, which is Jaunpur, because Sher Shah Suri had studied and had grown up in Jaunpur. So, as you can see, there's a linkage between the Mughal Empire, Jaunpur, Lucknow from the 1500s onwards. So, in 1528, Lucknow was captured, or the territory of Lucknow was captured by Babur, and his grandson Akbar made it a part of the region of Oudh or Awadh. Oudh was at that time what was the area now known as Ayodhya, and it was also further renamed after that as the location of Faizabad, because as you will see, Faizabad became the court of the local rulers of the Nawabs of Awadh for a period of time. Now, it was Asaf ud Dawla, one of the Nawabs of Awadh or Oudh, who transferred the capital from Oudh or Awadh into Lucknow from Faizabad in the year 1775. So literally from 1528 onwards till 1775, Lucknow was a suburb of Faizabad. It grew into prominence in 1775 when Asaf ud Dawla transitioned the capital from Faizabad onto Lucknow. Lucknow has played a very important part in the history of British India as well, and more so in the Indian freedom struggle. You'll be surprised if you're not only aware of it, that one of the key causes of the Indian First War of Independence, which in British historians' view was known as the Military Rising of 1857, or as they called it, from their perspective, the Mutiny of 1857, but from an Indian's perspective, it was the First War of Independence of 1857. Lucknow played a very important role in that particular, as we call it, First War of Independence. We do remember Mangal Pandey. We all remember the fact that it was in the city of Meerut that Mangal Pandey and the British Indian soldiers of the British Army rebelled against having to bite bullets which had either pork or beef fat on it. And the first of the ignitions of rebellion from the British standpoint took place in their army. But from an Indian standpoint, this was really the First War of Independence when Wajid Ali Shah, one of the last Nawabs of Awadh, was deposed by the British, and Wajid Ali Shah was the ruler or the Nawab of Lucknow. And when he was deposed in rather dubious circumstances for very flimsy reasons, for the fact that the British claimed that he was not an apt ruler or a good ruler to rule over a province such as Awadh, because they needed the riches of the land of Awadh. And when they deposed him, there was a uprising amongst the locals in the region of Awadh, and more so in the city of Lucknow. And an area called as the Residency, where the British and the Europeans used to stay in the city of Lucknow, was besieged and put under siege. But I want to take a pause here. If you have not understood the story, or if you have not read about this enough, there are two movies which will depict it to you very beautifully. One of them was Satyajit Ray's beautiful movie called as Shatranj Ke Khiladi. Watch the movie Shatranj Ke Khiladi and you will see several amazing actors portraying Wajid Ali Shah and the Nawabi lifestyles of Lucknow during that period of time when Wajid Ali Shah was deposed. And the other movie was by Merchant Ivory, the Merchant Ivory production, called as Heat and Dust. That starred, of course, Shashi Kapoor, and that also depicted the grandeur of the region known as Awadh. Now let's get back to the fact that when Wajid Ali Shah was deposed, and he was at that time the Nawab of Awadh, and he was sent to Metia Burj in Calcutta on exile, this led to the soldiers in his army and the local people who loved him, who were loyal to the court of the Nawab of Awadh, went into what is called as a mode of anger and surrounded the British soldiers in the location called as the Residency. And this again was coupled with the rebellion of the British soldiers in the British Army at that time in Meerut, which was Mangal Pandey and his group of soldiers. And that also found favor at that very point in time with Rani of Jhansi, with Nana Sahib, who was in Bithur, as well as Tatia Tope, plus the last Mughal emperor. All of these came together in the formation of what is known as the First War of Independence from our side, while the British historians call it the First Mutiny or the Mutiny of 1857. But having said that, the city of Lucknow was one of the four major areas where the rebellion took a lot of fervor and it took a lot of, as we call it, intensity. And that was exactly where, if you look at it, the city was besieged, residency was besieged, and the British soldiers were kept under captivity by this army of locals till the time, almost about 8 or 9 weeks later, the British army could come in and rescue them from there. This was the act of patriotism on behalf of the local population towards their Nawab, which was Nawab Wajid Ali Shah. Now, he was, of course, disposed to Metia Burs, and with him to Calcutta went a lot of the local population, went a lot of the food and the ethnic values of the people of Awadh. So you see a lot of similarity between the food that you will find in Calcutta, which is Mughlai food. It's kind of linked to the the food that you see in the Awadhi region. So there's a lot of linkages that you will see, and we'll explore that as we get into subsequent chapters of my story with these regions. Now, it is very important to know that historically Lucknow bears testimony to the fact that it played a key role in the first freedom struggle. Then, of course, you will realize that the incident of Kakori, where a big train robbery was held in 1925, which was a part of the freedom struggle, the war for independence by India. Kakori also played a very important role in the history of Indian independence. And Kakori is a location or a place not very far from Lucknow. And therefore, Lucknow has played a stellar role in the first war of independence and in subsequent attempts to get India's independence down the line. An amazing place with a lot of history and a lot of art, archaeology, architecture, and food. Now, let's get into the famous landmarks of Lucknow. Those of you who have traveled to Lucknow or those who plan to travel, you probably want to go and see the Bada Imam Bada. 1947, India found its independence, and from then on, the Bada Imam Bada obviously went in under the Archaeological Survey of India. But before that, this particular monument was constructed in the year 1748, and it is very important for Shiite Muslims as a result of the celebration of Muharram that gets done around the area of Bada Imam Bada, which is in the Chowk location of Lucknow. The Chota Imam Bada was built in between the years 1837 to 1842, and again, it is the smaller but a very beautiful version of the Bada Imam Bada, one of the two beautiful locations of the city of Lucknow that is a must-see if you're ever traveling there. Then, of course, you've got the Rumi Darwaza. The Rumi Darwaza is a beautiful representation of the Turkish Babi Humayun door or gateway that existed in Istanbul, and this was built in the year 1784. Rumi Darwaza, or the Turkish gate, is modeled on the Turkish style of architecture. It is called as Babe Humayun in Turkey, in Istanbul, or the Sublime Porte, as it is known as in French. And this particular one in Lucknow was constructed in the year 1784. The British Residency, we talked about it, and it's a very important, role during the first freedom struggle of India. This was built in the year 1800 and saw the first war of independence, or played a major role in the first war of independence of 1857. Then, of course, you have the beautiful Husainabad Clock Tower that was built in the year 1887 near Chowk. Chowk is, as you can understand, the crossroads. Chowk means the quadrangle, and the crossroads where major bazaars, vendors, shopkeepers, sellers, business communities used to, perform their daily, business activities. Chowk is a very prominent area of Lucknow. My family also has a very stellar, presence and history in that area. Chowk, I've been there thousands of times since childhood. A great place for food, great place for chaat, amazing place for thandai, great place for pan. Whatever is dear to Lucknow can be found in Chowk. Of course, there's Radhe's, as we call it, sweets. Radhe is very well known for, making savory products, which are out of the world. We'll talk about that when we get to the food side of Lucknow. But let's move on to Bhool Bhulaiya. Bhool Bhulaiya, or what is known as the you know, the place where um, you are in a labyrinth. You get lost in a labyrinth is called as the Bhul Bhulaiya. The labyrinth was constructed in 1784 by Asaf-ud-Dawla, and it's a culturally very important landmark and historically and architecturally a very important landmark of Lucknow. Of course, you got Chatar Manzil. Chatar Manzil is constructed on the style of the European architecture. That was where the queens and the queen consort used to be living during the Nawab's time. But Chatar Manzil today houses the offices of the central government, such as the CDRI or the Central Drug Research Institute, and other such governmental agencies. Hazratganj and Kesar Bagh, two very important landmarks of Lucknow apart from Chowk. Hazratganj was as beautiful as it could get. I have memories from my childhood when pristine white painted buildings would rival what is the Connaught Place of Delhi. A beautiful place to walk down in winter evenings or afternoons in particular. And of course, Kesar Bagh. The name Kesar Bagh itself comes from Kesar, or the paint that was done of yellow color on the various buildings around this area of old Lucknow called as Kesar Bagh. Kesar or saffron used to be used as the Nawabs would get the buildings painted through saffron induced paint. You can imagine how opulent that location was. Kesar Bagh has a very famous area called, or a monument called as the Baradari. The Baradari, of course, is now utilized for weddings and other such functions. But the Baradari used to host, art performances, used to host musical performances. It also used to have, various members of the royal family also, using it for purposes that they deemed fit at their time during the reign of Lucknow. So Baradari is still existing and has played a very important role in that region or that place of Lucknow called as Kesar Bagh. The University of Lucknow, 1921, established in the year 1921. The monument-style university looks like it was built for grandeur. Very many prominent people have come out of the University of Lucknow that have studied over there. My family has, of course, gone there and studied. The geological department is well known. The accounting department used to be very well known. The theology, political sciences. A lot of politicians that you have had in the early part of the Indian establishment post-independence did have alignment with Lucknow University. It was a thought-provoking university where a lot of conversation about modern India used to also take place. So University of Lucknow is an amazing place to go ahead and visit architecturally and otherwise as well. And of course, you've got the two schools which are very well known, both architecturally and otherwise. Colvin Talukdar School, few of my family members have studied there. And who can forget the La Martiniere School, a brilliant piece of architecture designed by Claude Martin, created by Claude Martin, a Frenchman from Lyon, who kind of came in and established himself in the city of Lucknow and gave to the city of Lucknow the school called La Martiniere School by the banks of the river Gomti. Again, a very famous institution. My dearest cousins have all studied there. I've visited that place very often. It's got a golf course close by. The zoological park isn't very far away from there. It is a monument of versatility, and it's a school now. But you can even enjoy it as a place of architecture that you can visit and align with as and when you visit that place. Of course, you've got places like Bhatkande's Music Academy. Bhatkande's Music Academy is a place where you get to see the performance of Kathak. Kathak was a court dance, the courtesans that used to perform in the royal courts of the Nawabs of Awadh. Many of the trainings that have since happened in Kathak have happened in the Bhatkande Music and Dance Academy, and it's another prominent place. Let's talk about the food now. And who but will not remember Chaudhary Sweets on Hazratganj, or would not remember Ram Asre of Hazratganj or Chowk, or would not remember Radhe Sweets of Chowk. These are the old timers. And of course, as I mentioned, the chaat, or the savory food item that is consumed by almost everybody, not only in India, but now in most parts of the world, including the United States. Chickpea flour made into, put into, shapes on which you have potato on it, or you have spicy fritters that has peppered water inside it or spiced water inside it, golgappas as they are called, or pani puris in some part of the world, or aloo tikkis. These are, or matar ki chaat, better known in Lucknow. They kind of have a specific chaat item called as matar ki chaat that all comes out of the famed city of Lucknow. And to me personally, apart from some of the old timers in the city of Lucknow in Chowk, I would consider King of Chaat in Hazratganj to be one of the finest purveyors of chaat in that city even to this date. And of course, you've got Tunde Kababi. Everybody's heard of them. They are the guy, the family that has made kebabs and Mughlai food rather famous, or Avdi food rather famous. But I personally align with the Qureshi clan of Lucknow from the Sadr area. The Qureshi clan, how do I know them? Well, I started my career with ITC in ITC hotels, and I grew up watching nobody better than Chef Imtiaz Qureshi, Master Chef Imtiaz Qureshi, who is from Lucknow, who started his career over there, the creator of the Dum Pukt restaurants. And of course, his sons, Ashfaq, was with me during my days as a hotelier in the early days. Chef Imtiaz Qureshi is a name to be revered, respected. Some of the finest biryanis that I've ever tasted, or kasare puktan, or some of the dishes that have come out of him and his kitchens, are highly respected even by some of the top chefs of India and otherwise. He has played host to Queen Elizabeth. He has cooked for President, for President Zakir Hussain and for Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. He has cooked for Bill Clinton. He has been one of the chefs who has been host to many from a kitchen standpoint during his heydays. And his story started, of course, in the city of Lucknow as well. And as we move on, personally, again, Lucknow, for me, right from my childhood, has been an area that I've visited. My family is very prominently present there, whether it is in the enclave of Mahanagar, or whether it's in the area of Chowk, whether it's in Aminabad, or whether it is, near Vivekananda Hospital behind it, the area, the enclave which is close to Mahanagar. These are all areas where my family has grown up, and today there's Gomti Nagar, where you've got some very beautiful hotels that have come up. But to come to think about it, Lucknow has had a historical past, right from the days of Ramayana, through the Middle Ages, through the days of Babur, through the days of course, the Nawabs of Awadh and Wajid Ali Shah, and the first struggle for India's freedom. The beautiful monuments still live and exist and breathe over there. They don't exist and breathe there in a physical form in the sense that they're living and breathing as human beings, but they live and breathe because there's history. The walls talk to you. The stories surrounding those places talk to you. A visit to those places kind of brings about that romance, that feeling of alignment with the wonderful history of that place that mesmerizes you. It mesmerizes me. And of course, the food wows me. There's never a time that I'm not the happiest when I'm in Lucknow, and when I'm just having my most favorite arhar ki dal, sukhe halu, and hari dhania ki chutney, as they put it, which is really yellow lentils, freshly boiled white rice, and green, coriander chutney, which goes so very well as a simple meal that I grew up having. But of course, there's the chaat, there's the kebabs, there is the biryani, there is, of course, the chicken, the shami kebabs, you name it. The city has given so much to the land of India, and my personal journey through that land is always memorable. I don't know when do I go back next over there, but I'm looking forward to the next trip and imbibing, enjoying all of these locations and fruit products as time as well as the opportunity comes my way. But we'll meet again on another episode at another time soon enough, and we'll walk through other beautiful journeys which I've been through in the various cities, not only in India but across the globe. And so with more to come, I sign off. These are my soulful stories from my journeys, and welcome again to the RK Show, which is a part of our Indreel Media enterprise. Thanks and bye for now.